Welcome to another episode of Knives Monroe versus the podcast. I'm Knives Monroe. How you guys doing? Hopefully you're doing well. By the time you're hearing this, it's January 8th, 2020. We haven't missed a day of podcasting for over a week. I'm very proud of that. And I'm also proud to introduce someone who I want to call dear friend. We've been talking on again, off again for about 3 years now.
Yeah.
My good friend, Jake Cole. How you doing, buddy?
Not too bad, man. How's it going, my man? Knives.
It's going well, man. You're looking good, looking real creative. I can see your rig in the background. What is that, a Panasonic GH4 or 5?
No, this is actually a Blackmagic 6K with a tilter rig. Yeah.
Damn.
It's a good time. It's a real good time. I love it.
Yeah, good for you, dude. So I really want to get into your origin story. I want you to go all Miles Morales on me, but since you mentioned it, how's the 6K Blackmagic?
Oh my God, it's a monster and a half. I never thought that using an external solid state drive, like I knew it was going to be a lot of info, but recording like half an hour was for like 600 gigs.
No.
So
no, thanks.
Yeah.
No, thanks. No.
I'm
sorry.
I need a better ingest system.
Is it worth it?
That's the. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Hell yeah. Sure. 100%.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't played with it. I did use for maybe a week. I didn't get to do too much testing, but it was fun. Really decked out. I rented the Blackmagic 4K, had the micro 4/3, and with the glass that I already had. I mean, it was pretty marvelous. Oh, yeah. I gotta ask. So when you go to 6K, it's like a 2-point something crop, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it is 2 times crop.
And you got the EF mount.
And I got the what now?
The EF mount?
Yes, correct. I have Rokinon 35 on there, and I actually just bought a Sigma 27-70.
Oh, yeah. But I bought one of those, and I thought it was 2.8 the whole way, but it's not.
No, it is not. No,
I know.
The more you zoom in, it goes to 4.
It goes to 4. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Not terrible.
It's not terrible. For like low light situations, I wanted like a more wide shot anyways. I kind of shooting wider anyways. But it goes to 2.8 on wide, so it's not terrible for me.
Dude, that's awesome.
I can just switch it to the other prime lenses I have, which my 35 goes to 1.8. I have an 85 that goes to, I think, a 1.8 as well, or 2.
You know, those are actually low light beasts.
Oh yeah, I know.
You could jack it up to like, I don't know, 3600 ISO, and it looks dope.
Yeah, I mean the 6K, it has what's called a dual native ISO, which I'm sure you know about, where the native ISO is 400 as well as 3200. So you'll get the same amount of dynamic range, the same amount of clarity at 3200 ISO that you would get at 400.
Yeah,
which to me like blows the crap out of my mind.
I know, it's really good. I will say, I don't know. I don't think like dual ISO is still relatively new. I think the GH5S has it, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not too sure. Yeah, and but I don't think any of the Sonys have it, like the A7 III or the the A7S2?
A7S2, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that has it, but that was one of the best low light cameras I've ever used in my life.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it doesn't even really need dual ISO for Sony cameras because they're just such low light beasts.
Okay,
like,
so I want to get into all this nerd talk.
Yeah,
I love it, but Jake,
it's fine.
Let me ask you just a few preliminary questions. How many birthdays have you had?
How many birthdays have I had? I just had my 25th birthday.
You were
4 days ago.
You were such a baby. Hey, happy belated birthday.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you were, was it January 3rd?
Yes, correct.
Happy belated birthday, man. 25 years old. Man, you're so accomplished. You're doing so much at your age.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like, you just got to keep going. That's me. I'm always all ahead, full. I
can tell. Full tilt. I love it. So where are you from?
I am from Stowe, Ohio. I've traveled around a bit, but currently I'm living in Hudson, Ohio. I film the majority of my film work comes from Cleveland and the Cleveland film industry. Super big love and props to the Cleveland film industry as well. It's a great time filming here. It's a very competitive, a very hard industry to get into because it's such a, I wouldn't say relatively new, but it's not as poppin' as like Atlanta or LA or New York or whatever. But from here we can get a lot done. And it's funny too, because when I see a lot of like the work that not just I do, but a lot of the work that a lot of my colleagues do, a lot of my friends do around here, people always ask, that came from Cleveland? I'm like, yes, it did.
Wow. Would I know of any Cleveland productions, any work I may have seen? Or any notable filmmakers that came from Cleveland?
So, you might have heard of the Russo brothers.
Oh, they sound familiar. They have, they're like this little indie, they're like these indie guys, right?
They're the ones that have directed
the Avengers,
the Marvel Avengers. They've directed the Marvel Avengers movies, Captain America, a lot of different things. I was actually helping them on a set recently with Warner Brothers, which was called Cherry. Very fantastic. I'm not going to get too much and give too much away, but I'm very excited for it.
Well, you went straight for the humble brag real fast. That is awesome.
Sorry.
So what did you do? What was your title? What was your role? How'd you land that?
So I wasn't anything super crazy. I was part of the art department. I was part of the props department. So mainly the majority of my job was to get the props that were needed from the warehouse to set. And besides that, I was able to help stock up their recruitment since they needed at least 10 people to help out with various different departments. I was able to call up a lot of my guys, a lot of my interns as well, and I was able to help boost up the ranks. And they're pretty appreciative of that. And so we got about 2 weeks worth of stuff done in about a few days.
Wow. Honestly, that's really cool. The Russos, I'm kidding when I say they make these little indie productions and everything, but they've done some really cool things. Like like they directed some of the funniest Community episodes, things like that. Big fan of Community. Did you get to meet them?
I did. I got to meet both Joe and Anthony at the rap party. They're fantastic. It was definitely interesting watching them work, how they direct on set. As compared to like stupid behind the scenes things that you'd see after like, Avengers credits or whatever. But it was really interesting to see just the dynamic of how they work with their DP as well as the rest of the cast. And it's interesting. A lot to take in from it for sure.
So this is this like a secret project called Cherry, or is it a movie called Cherry?
It's a movie called Cherry. It's not out obviously, but there's trailers, there's things of it you'll see. Like if you look it up, it stars Tom Holland and Sierra Bravo, and that's about all I'll try and give away of it because I didn't necessarily sign an NDA, but I'd rather stick to the safe side.
Yeah, 100%. Man, that is so cool. So, I mean, would you say that you picked up anything notable from the directors that you'd want to implement like in your own production in the future?
Well, yes and no. They had a very tight but lax set, which you can have when you have like 15,000 people working on a movie. But I think one of the best things that I really learned from them was the ability to really take in the composition. They had for the DP and for the Russos, they each had a separate tent. Usually the DP is next to the director while they're with the AC watching the camera or watching the monitors, whatever. But they had the DP and the Russos in two separate tents. And then after each that they would come together and they would discuss what they liked about the composition, what they didn't like, what they need to change, what actors need to go where, things like that. But it's an interesting beast for sure. It makes you really appreciate all of the names that you see in the credits.
100%, man. Let me ask you, how did you get into this business? Like, you're still pretty young. You're 25 years old, a quarter of a century. What was the bug that bit you or the lightning bolt that hit you in the head?
For the industry as a whole or for Cherry, the project?
Let's say filmmaking.
For filmmaking as a whole. I'm still in college right now, I'm doing part-time, but when I was in full-time college, I did 2 years of criminal justice studies And a lot of my time doing that was going on police ride-alongs and things of that nature. I was back then, I've been editing since I was like 12 or 13.
Wow.
And I was hired by a few different YouTubers that needed help with edits. So I would crank out some gaming videos, whatever. And during all that, I was also doing criminal justice. And it really got to a point where on like ride-alongs, I was seeing a lot of people who are my age right now, when I was like 18 or 19 at the time, who were just jaded, who just didn't like life. That, I mean, day in and out, you deal with the dregs. You see, I've walked in on so many overdoses. It's ridiculous.
Oh,
and it's just really just after my experience with all of that, I wanted to get and do something that was more meaningful to me, more fulfilling to me, than just being another cop who might get shot up on a traffic stop. So I switched from criminal justice after 2 years of doing it to media studies, which my parents were very happy about. Yeah. And and then after joining that, I took a few media classes. I met some of my friends that I still have now from those classes. I went and joined a on-campus TV station called ZTV, where after a semester they let me create and produce my own TV show. And then from there, I built on my team. We worked with micro budget to no budget all the time. So I have no aversion to hard work, but it's nice that as you keep evolving in this industry, you get those people, you get those resources, you get the camera, you get whatever you need, and you can just bust out whatever you need. But yeah, that's kind of like my Batman origin story was doing criminal justice, come to the media side because it's a lot more fulfilling, and I feel a lot more fulfilled.
That's the first time I've heard of a story where, usually it's a cliche that someone's 6 years old and they watch Jurassic Park and they're making a mini movie with their dad's VCR camera with the dinosaur toys or something. And so just a couple years ago, you were training to be a cop, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. I was training to become a detective.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Yep. So when I can't remember if I reached out to you or if you reached out to me to do the podcast intro for my guy, Dakota Meyer, were you still pursuing criminal justice at that time? That must have been like 2017.
That was I think a year. I started media in 2015.
Oh, okay.
No, 2016. Yeah. So it's like a year and a half, 2 years maybe after I started.
Yeah. And thank you for that.
That was when I worked with intro WZIP.
You turned it around so fast, and I want to thank you again for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So where do you draw your inspiration from? Because most of us filmmakers are kind of cliche, like I said, we go to cinema, we go to movies. It was the blockbusters growing up and stuff like that. So you say it fulfills you much more. What is it about cinema? Like why would it fulfill you?
I think what's the most fulfilling thing for me is that, I don't know. I mean, I can give you like the cliche story of when I was a kid, I used to love just watching movies anyways.
Yes.
But I think what fulfills me the most about it is not even like really the creative aspect, even though I love that. It's just being able to tell someone's story correctly and perfectly. I love capturing the essence of someone's story and having people be able to appreciate that kind of point of view, and being able to appreciate the not just like the dialogue or the story itself, but really the story as a whole. And being able to tell that story really heavily relies on knowing how to make a good composition of the lighting and how to make it sound good, because 70% of all videos is great audio. You can watch a good looking video with crap audio and people will turn away from that. But I don't know. That's kind of where I draw my inspiration, is just finding those good stories to really sink into and try to really help tell it and hopefully make a good change in the world. And really, actually, after I changed from criminal justice, the very first thing I did going into my media studies was how can I make a heroin documentary about addiction now with current addicts, former addicts, with police, with the fire departments, EMS, things like that.
Yeah.
And I kind of latched onto that as soon as I switched over, and it just all goes back to wanting to tell that story.
Was that going to be in a fictional context, or was that going to be like a documentary?
It's a documentary. It's still in the works right now. We had some more legal troubles than we realized when coming into contact with a few different people, but
can you talk about
it's
that?
Still in the works right now.
Can you talk about that, the legal stuff?
Yes and no.
Like, what gets in the way? I once chatted with a cinematographer who worked a couple of years on Intervention, the show, and asking him about like what that was. I mean, they stepped over the line a couple of times. In terms
stepped
of
over the line.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They can because they have like the permits and the budget and all that fun stuff, but. When it wasn't even really anybody in particular. It's just that when you're interviewing, like, let's say the mayor of the city that you're trying to make this documentary in, a lot of the times they are somewhat adverse to it because they don't want to come on and really say, hey, I know we have a problem. And it's crazy because there's a lot of truth that gets kind of like just pushed to the back burner, and it stinks and that's what really draws the line in the sand for a lot of that production, is that there's a lot of people to interview for it, but a lot of them don't want to come on because they don't want to give that negative stigma. They're trying to get out of that. But a lot of that healing comes from talking it out, comes from a documentary, it comes from not even that, it comes from the articles, comes from the buzz of even making it.
Yeah. When you're telling a documentary, it sounds like it's a long form, maybe like feature length documentary. Would you say yes to that?
Yes. So each interview, I have it cut up in a way where each episode is like about 10 minutes long, and there's going to be about like 10 or 12 episodes of it. So It'll go up to increasingly into a feature length where I'll just cut it together as such.
I see. Wow. And so, I mean, how do you want to share it with us? How will we be able to watch it one day?
So it just depends on who wants to help me distribute it. I'm still kind of in the works on 2 other documentaries currently for other clients, and it's about how they want to have those distributed as well. One of them is trying to get up the funds to help solicit it to Netflix and to Hulu and Amazon and all those fun streaming players out there. But hopefully I can get this thing out at least on Amazon, at least somewhere out here locally. I've had a few different, hospitals, I've had different coalitions, things like that, nonprofits that have come to me like, hey, we want to give towards this and we want to see this produced. And I'm like, that's great. Let's do it. It's just a matter of finding more distributors, coming up with the game plan to get the rest of it produced, and then being able to distribute it.
So where do you start with the I'm very curious about this. Where do you start with the documentary? Like, do you have an outline? Because you don't have a script per se, right?
No script.
So how are you shaping it right now? Like, how do you know where to go, and how do you know when it's finished?
So really it's all about the overarching theme of what you want to go for. My theme for the heroin documentary, for example, is not necessarily to just say, oh, heroin's a thing, it's bad, it's plaguing everything. It's more so comes from the direct perspective of current addicts, what they're going through, their financial problems, their family issues, their education issues. And a lot of the times the current addicts that I even interviewed, they're not just low class people that are from poverty who've gone into drugs. They're people that have their sports heroes. There's people that get into car accidents that are prescribed these drugs, and unfortunately it just takes over their lives. And it's something that's never as discussed because there's such a huge stigma where, only people who are just sincere drug addicts who have nothing in life to begin with go and get hooked on these hard drugs. But that's further from the truth, since there's doctors, there's lawyers, there's people of meaning and interest to whole communities that are hooked on these painkillers silently that you would never know about. And it's a constant inner battle. And that's something that I kind of want to highlight with those interviews, and not just interviews from that perspective, but interviews with law enforcement, their perspective on it, interviews with EMS and how many overdoses a day that they would have to run to, and do Narcan and all these crazy things. It's when I was in criminal justice, we had, and this is like when it was first starting, we had, I think, like 8 calls in one night that we got to, all different heroin overdoses. And it's hard. It's hard to consistently see all of those people who had them all just gone in an instant because of just pain. And, it's something that I like to try and tell, whether it's, and it goes back to the overarching story too, that each one of these perspectives makes up that overarching goal of what this whole documentary is supposed to be about.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense to me, for sure. It's more like episodic in nature.
Yeah.
Part of the luxury of being able to see you face to face over the internet is I can see the detective cogs turning when you're describing this to me. Do you see some sort of common denominator between the desire of wanting to be a detective versus you're not necessarily solving a case per se with this feature film, but you are? I mean, do you go undercover? Do you try to hide the fact that you're making a documentary, or is it more kind of upfront?
I try and be very upfront with everybody. And that's the thing. You have to be upfront too, because you have to get those waivers signed. And a lot of the times,
you could mislead him and say, we're making a documentary. You could mislead your subject and say, we're actually trying to, it's a this, when really it's a PSA for that. Or like, you could totally manipulate them if you wanted to. I'm not saying ethically that's okay, but I have heard from some documentary filmmakers that the number one rule in creating a documentary is to lie.
I've also heard that. I might tend to disagree. I'm more for the truth usually. I like to be more upfront, and I find that the people that want to help while you're being truthful usually offer the best sort of testimony for it anyways. Under the guise of something else, things can get real muddied real quickly, especially with the different situations that you might be parking yourself next to when interviewing these kind of people. You may not want to negatively impact their lives in that area.
Yeah, you have a responsibility to treat them respectfully, of course, especially these subjects. Yeah. There's just so many different kind of guerrilla tactics out there. I don't think Werner Herzog would lie to his subjects. I really don't.
Right.
Do you see yourself making feature films that are, fictional, where there's a script and all that? I can't remember if I asked you this. Do you write scripts?
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the time. I do. I'd say more pre-production on creative projects than I do for clients, mainly because client work is usually, talking heads for businesses, whatever. So it doesn't really, there's nothing usually terribly creative with that. But I do a lot of indie producing for the area. I have interns that also write their own content from Kent State University. From last semester, I had 8 interns from Kent State, and they shadowed me on shoots. I taught them how to edit more effectively, improve their workflow, how to talk to clients, building an industry-ready resume, and a great demo reel. And every single person that's graduated thus far, I've had, I think, maybe 20-some interns. Every single one of them's gotten an industry job, whether it be on set of a movie, on set of a television program. I know that a few of them went on to do like American Ninja Warrior. Some of them work for different like in-house production houses, social media agencies, things like that.
That's awesome. Are you an army of one, like your company?
Yeah, usually for like my specific company, RC Productions, I try to army of one it. However, I do have another LLC called Cleveland Wedding Video, where I have partners in it. Wedding videos are always hunky dory and fun. I can get into a whole thing about that, because I do like shooting weddings.
Can we?
Mainly,
that's kind of a recurring theme about how filmmakers usually. I ask every filmmaker, how many weddings have you shot?
I shoot way too many weddings a year. Oh my God. But it's good, because everything I see on like TV or in movies, like if there's shots that I want to like recreate, I'll try it. That's the best practice, is to do it at weddings, because if it looks good, throw it in. If not, you got a ton of other B-roll.
Yeah. So I'm curious, because I've shot a few weddings. They were disasters. It was like it was more of a what not to do kind of masterclass, which I'm really good at.
Feel it.
So walk me through, like, can we do like a little simulation? Like, I'm the bride?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hey, Jake, I really liked your demo reel. I like how you cut weddings together. Are you available June 9th to film my wedding?
If it is, then yeah, absolutely. And what are you looking for? We specialize in cinematic wedding videography. We've been showcased on various websites, including The Knot and The Wedding Wire. We have an award-winning videography team full of award-winning sound editors, award-winning directors. Everybody that is in our crew and our team is directly dedicated to creating and capturing perfect day for you, essentially.
Wow. So I have a couple questions. Number one is, are there going to be people there that are going to take video and photos? Because I definitely want photos as well.
If you want photos, we have a ton of people that we work with regularly that we can absolutely recommend to you. However, in order to capture the perfect day, the perfect video for you, we have to be strictly committed to making and capturing that day perfectly with video.
I understand that. I don't want to be all bridezilla about it. Was just asking. They say that. How many people are going to be? How many people are going to be on the ground, like filming and everything?
Usually just two. We have one lead videographer as well as a second videographer that'll show up during the more heavier bits of the wedding day, such as the ceremony and a lot of the reception.
Okay. And how long does it take for you to turn a video around?
So we usually have a less than 1 month turnaround time, as well as we do offer expedited editing services where we can turn it around in about 3 days.
Holy smokes, that's insane. And what does the final product look like lengthwise?
Lengthwise, it just depends. Whenever we would meet up for the deposit, we would also go over what is called the editing workflow, where you would let me know. You would browse essentially the different demos that we've had, the different highlight videos that we have, and you can choose whether you want a edited down highlight of the entire day, usually around 20 to 30 minutes, filled with nice cinematic shots, music, the toasts, everything. Or you can have a more documentary style of the day where it's a longer cut. You get the full cut of the ceremony, the full cut of the reception. And it just really depends on what length you are comfortable with watching. Because I know a lot of brides that are like, we want the full ceremony. It's a Catholic wedding. And I'm sure you don't want to see people standing up and sitting down for an hour and a half. You just want the good, juicy parts.
Wow. Okay, Jake, that's very impressive. That's so impressive, man. I mean,
it's all about the workflow. It's all about the workflow.
It totally is. I got to say, you got it dialed in.
I know that I hit the nail on the freaking head when I make that bride cry. If I can make them cry, that's how I know I did a good job.
So do you watch the final product with them?
No. Usually I'll send it out to them, and then they'll send me back a text with a bunch of them crying emojis, like, oh my gosh, this is amazing and perfect, or this crying emojis, and they're like, this is fucking dog shit.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Oh, it's crazy. People are crazy.
Okay, so
it's
something whatever. I'm so curious about. How do brides, right? How do they know what's trash and what's not. Like, have you ever turned something in that you're like, that's pretty good, and then they're just like, I don't fucking like this? And why? Like, where does that criticism come from? Like, how walk me through how you talk to them about that.
It does depend per situation. However, my main goal is to find their pain point with either the editing or the shots or whatever, and then talking them through what specifically they didn't like, whether it be an audio problem or be B-roll problem if we didn't get enough of it, or if they wanted a certain part included in the highlight that we didn't get to. A lot of the times they'll be able to, and God, do they tell me all the problems that are wrong with the video. And and you're right, a lot of the times where I'll send it like, this looks pretty freaking good, I'll send this to them, and then they'll be like, what the hell is this? I don't like this, blah, blah, blah. I need to fix this, this, and this, which I'll happily oblige to, or one of my interns will. However, it does get to a point where we have had like brides, like Godzillas, and it's
have you ever been like, here's your fucking money, I'm out? Have you ever given refunds? We've had to issue refunds before, mainly, and we don't issue full refunds ever. The only time we've actually only issued maybe 2 ever, and both of them were from not circumstances on our part, and one of them wanted to get into litigation, but that was very fast. Like, no, they didn't want to get into that with us. Wow.
So it's
wedding
filmography
is like such a racket, man. It's not worth it for me. For me personally,
a racket. Oh yeah,
it's brutal.
It's a terrible racket.
Was it worth it financially for you?
Money. What's that?
Was it worth it financially, money wise for you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'll go out on a weekend and make $1,500.
Fucking.
And yeah, right. I mean, it's a wedding, and then at this point, really, it's a matter of just setting up the workflow in a way that it just works for us. Because a lot of the weddings we already do, we just kind of subcontract to the other videographer, a lot of other videographers that we have on our team, and they'll go out and we'll pay them out. We'll pay out for the editors, interns, and stuff like that. But yeah, it's worth it to me.
It's so impressive, man. I gotta tell you, I like the way you got it dialed in. That's really, really cool. There are people that are filming weddings with like reds and just gnarly stuff. Like it's that basically only do weddings. Like I know here in Austin, like that's their bread and butter. And
yeah,
I mean, they got to figure it out. Like I think
they got to figure it out. They got to figure it out. It's crazy. And I don't like having to stick with weddings. I like doing them enough for the practice, especially, but it does come to a point where it gets to be a lot. And it's always like around November, December, where I'm like, oh, it's almost over.
That's what I hear.
2 more weddings of the year.
that seems to be like the consensus for sure.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Actually, funny enough, in January, I have my first wedding on Saturday.
I see.
Already.
Wow, man. That's great. Shout out the name of your business again so people can like maybe look up the website and search you up.
It is rcproductionsmedia.com, and you can go ahead. I put all of most of, I should say, of the latest work that I do. A lot of the times the clients don't like me putting up, videos from them up on my personal website, but a lot of my more creative projects that I do, you'll be able to see and find out on there. You'll be able to see a lot of like my commercial work. Not much of blogs, but it's more so a website of just like a demo of what I do and how to book.
Jake, we're not done yet, but for people out there, I just kind of want to pause and say, like, check out Jake's work. I can't believe it. Like, this is just so cool. Like, this is like a testament of who showed you the way. Like, where did you learn the business side of filmmaking? Because I feel like once people got that figured out, you can basically do anything.
Do whatever. You're not wrong. I have to actually attribute that, a lot of that really to my dad, because he's also a business owner. He has a very strict business mindset. He's a very pinpoint accurate kind of person, kind of like how I am, where you need to have everything lined up in a row and you need to have that workflow down pat.
Is he a military vet?
He's not a vet. He's not a military vet. He's a mechanical engineer.
Nice.
He owns his own companies, and he does a lot of work for the military, for medical devices. He's worked with Apple and Microsoft, things like that. But he has a very good business sense, and I get a lot of my business sense from him because he's very no nonsense. He has an emotional side. It's just it's not very easily touched, and he can see through a lot of bullshit that people will kind of pander to you. And I think one of the things I'm really grateful that he's really instilled in me is to be able to see through people's kind of bullshit, because there's a lot of people that want to like tug on your heartstrings to, so you don't make as much money as much bread as you need for the family, so to speak. And one of the things that he's passed on to me is really the ability to kind of see through that and to get the deal that I want at the end of the day.
That's a good skill set to pass on to your son. Funnily enough, maybe like 15 minutes before we got on the podcast, my son asked me to buy him. He's 14 years old. To buy him.
Okay.
This is so funny. I'm mentioning this. No one will hear it. To buy him a $75 windbreaker, essentially, and I was like, Are you high? Did you start smoking marijuana? Where's the bong? What is happening?
Yeah, right.
I instantly started making phone calls to our local ice cream shops to see if they hire 14-year-olds, and they don't. I found one that hires 15-year-olds, but I was like, dude, Christmas just happened. Like, what is going on? What is this? I grew up. You went shopping once a year. That was it. I wore the same shoes freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. I grew up a little.
Sounds like me.
I grew up a little less fortunate than this guy, but here I am, 31, trying to instill the value of $1, and also, I have my own business as well with my wife, and so we want to be able to pass on these. If he wanted to, start working for the family business, he could be his own boss, essentially, right? And so he's getting at that age where now it's time to talk about money, and now it's time for you to make your own money and learn the value of $1. So I could take a couple of lessons from your dad too. So just let me know where to sign up for his master class. I'll take
for
it.
his master class. Yeah,
I need that
for sure.
So do you like watching movies?
I love watching movies.
Do you
I try
have
and
time
see a
to watch
movie in
movies?
theaters
you're booked every
week.
weekend.
I try to go every week, every weekend. I don't have anything else that I do besides being a full-time filmmaker. So I try to allot one of those days to be a movie watching day / writing day / catch up on editing kind of day. And I think, the last thing I saw was the new Star Wars, actually. And that was okay.
Yeah.
Shot wise, it was pretty good. Story wise, I can't really complain terribly too much about it, but
I don't really remember it.
I don't like trying. What's that?
I don't really remember it. I know that it happened.
Yeah, I know. That's the kind of thing, like with the newer Star Wars movies. It's like, yeah, it was a thing, it was hyped, and then it's just like kind of fizzles. And you're right, it's not a very memorable story, unfortunately. Yeah. But there's also aspects of it that I can appreciate, and that's what I kind of do going into movies now. Is I can't just sit down and watch a movie anymore and just like take it in as is. I critique the shit out of the composition, the writing, the dialogue. I look at my watch constantly just for the timing and the pacing of the script, a lot of other things. But I try to appreciate all film for what it is. And then I'll wait another few months and I'll watch CinemaSins on YouTube and see what else I missed of the same thing that I watched. But
CinemaSins is basically like the ESPN highlights of movies. Like, if I don't want to catch up on something, I'll be like, let me just watch the CinemaSins and I'll get the gist.
Yeah.
Do you walk me through like your daily routine? Because I'm having trouble acclimating to working from home. It's not really. It's, you could presume if you've lived like the 9-to-5 cubicle life that, man, I'd love to just roll out of bed and work in my pajamas, But it's not the most. It's not as desirable as some people think, right? So, walk me through like your sleep schedule. How do you decompress? You know, I'm very curious about those sides of things.
So my daily routine, it varies depending on what I have going on day to day. I'll have meetings. I had 2 of them today. I usually have, besides those meetings with clients, I'll have pre-production meetings. I'll have editing that I'll have to get done. Sometimes I have to meet with interns. I have to assign work to them. It really just depends. I'm not the military guy that wakes up at 5:30 every morning, makes my bed, and gets on with my day. A lot of the times, like today, I was actually up till 4 a.m. last night, and I got up at like 11 a.m. today, just from editing stuff. So it really just depends. I can't do that
anymore. I can't.
Yeah.
I mean, I have kids. I literally can't. But like that used to be the way for sure.
that was the way. That was the way for sure.
Oh,
it
man.
just all depends on it just depends on what needs done. And a lot of the times, if you're the only person to do that, then get it done.
Are you filming these weddings on this Blackmagic camera?
What's that?
Are you filming these weddings on the Blackmagic camera?
No, not yet, I should say. I usually use a GH4 or a GH5S or a Sony A7S II, mainly because they're smaller. Obviously, they're easy to set up for like gimbals and stuff like that. However, for top packages and stuff, I'll use that. I won't film in 6K because that's hella overkill. But 1920 by 1080 on a 6K sensor looks pretty dang good.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's a Super 35 sensor, no?
Correct.
Oh, that's beautiful. Did you ever fuck with, now we're talking real nerd talk, so sorry, listeners. My filmmaker listeners will appreciate this, but everybody else, right. I apologize. Bear with me. Skip ahead like 5 minutes. Did you ever fuck with the Canon like C200?
Yeah, I love the C200.
What do you think about that? Is that a good buy nowadays? It's several years old at this point.
Yeah, it's old. It's
As
old
of
now.
This recording, I believe the Canon 1DX Mark III just came out.
Yeah, that's right. Peter McKinnon really just did a video on it.
I don't see I don't see how it's still behind as far as I'm concerned for a run and gunner if you have a GH5.
Right.
What is going on? Like, don't get me wrong. I love the photos are like mwah for sure. Like I love taking stills. I make a lot of money like taking stills. And I love mirrorless cameras. I don't care. You know, I use the Canon 5D Mark IV. It's totally fine. Like, fun. Why are? I mean, these are like $6,000-$7,000 cameras, DSLRs. Like, what the fuck? Why are these things so overpriced? Their specs are like I love Canon. Like Canon's. Sometimes I use the 5D Mark IV for video, like the 4K crop. Like it
looks good.
It's amazing for sure. Don't get me wrong,
right?
But, so it's just so strange to me. How dare they? That's what my question. How dare answer that? How dare they?
How dare they? Canon's always been kind of behind, though. That's the thing. It took them this long, really, to finally get a 4K sensor into a camera that's not $15,000.
Yeah.
They've always been kind of behind when it comes to video, but they're also coming from a market where they were just photo for the absolute longest time.
Very true.
And now there's video coming into the mix with media nowadays. It's a lot of catch up on their part. But during their catch up, because they're also still trying to be the best when it comes to color technology and when it comes to like fast lenses, Canon tries to be the best at that. But then because of that, lacks in video. That's where I'm kind of seeing my take from. However, it's good to see that they're starting to put like a good foot forward into the video market. Because a lot of people, as you said, they don't want to spend $7,000 on a Canon C200 or C300 Mark I or II. They want to spend like $2,000 maybe on like a 5D4 and get the same quality really. For a smaller camera, that's easier to run and gun. And for a lot of it too is when you go to these movie sets or these clients and they see you shoot on a DSLR, a lot of the times they're going to be like, you're a video guy, where's your video camera? Mm-hmm. And that's a stigma in and of itself that I could go on for a year about, but
same.
It's it's crazy.
I will say, man,
Canon,
the GH5 came out years ago. It's still unrivaled in my opinion. The stills are okay if you need to, if that's all you have. 4K, 60 frames a second. The ISO is good. The autofocus is pretty good. They just released a firmware update where they made it even better. Micro Four Thirds lens are very adaptable. There's you and me talked about the Metabone. So if you're that kind of guy that needs it, it's totally worth it. You can lower your stop. The battery, I'm using a GH5 right now to record this. You know, there's no record limit. Cool. The batteries last fucking forever. You know, there's the internal in-body stabilization. The lenses
is so nice.
It's just so good. You know, there's nothing wrong. I mean, geez, and God, and they're cheap at this point. A GH4 you can get like what? I don't know. I don't want to say brand new, but maybe $800 is like the most it'll cost.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's unrivaled. The GH4 was amazing too. I love that game.
Yeah, I still have my GH4.
I just gave my GH4 away to a friend of the show, Louis Phantom. You know, he's putting miles on it, and I love that camera to death. And,
that's awesome. Oh yeah,
he's going to be so
good
happy
times
with
the GH4.
Love the GH4.
Actually, did you know that the GH5S's sensor is the same sensor that's in the Blackmagic 4K?
No way.
Pocket 4K, I should say.
So what are the key differences between the S and the GH5? I'm curious.
So the GH5 is more of a multi-tool. It's designed with video in mind. However, it's still more of that picture video multi-tool, whereas the GH5S comes natively, and as it should, as a video camera with P-log with a logarithmic color profile, the grayscale for color correcting. It comes natively with the GH5S, where with like the GH5 and the GH4, you'd have to buy that $100 add-on SD card that you have to buy from Panasonic.
Which I've done.
That's good. Yeah. I love shooting in log. That's also why I love the Blackmagic too. It just looks so good. It's nuts.
It is really beautiful. I will say that like I need to dedicate maybe a week or 2 weeks on DaVinci Resolve. Like I've messed with it. I've played with it. It's pretty cool. I like it quite a bit. I know it's proprietary, and so you have to use it when it comes to these cameras. Oh, by the way, B-RAW, like the B-RAW is beautiful too. Like I rendered it in proxy on Final Cut. I usually use Final Cut, and so I was able to color it and play with it, and it was really cool on Final Cut. DaVinci's a little intimidating to me. Yeah, I've seen people edit sound on it. Like it's really good for editing sound as well. Yeah, it's something I want. 2020. I'm putting it on wax so I can hold myself accountable to it. Like I need to jump in the deep end when it comes to DaVinci Resolve, just because it's kind of becoming a standard. Like Premiere is losing its luster. I've noticed. I've never had a crash problem with Final Cut. I'm a big Final Cut guy, and I've dabbled with everything. But,
I know you are. Yeah. I've messed around with Avid, with Final Cut, with Premiere. I kind of tend more to go to the Adobe suites just because of how really integrated everything is. DaVinci is definitely a different beast because that's not really the traditional way an NLE is kind of set up for editing.
Right.
However, there are, like for Premiere at least, I'm not sure if it has it for Final Cut yet, but Blackmagic did release a free plugin so you can import B-RAW files into Premiere finally.
Yeah.
Because when the 6K originally came out, and even like with 4K and stuff, it wasn't necessarily native. You had to use and know DaVinci Resolve to edit things in B-RAW from that camera.
Yep.
Or you'd have to pay $30 for like this third-party plugin to edit on Premiere or Final Cut. But now they're starting to kind of come out with it for free, which is nice. But yeah, it's good. It's definitely good to be well-rounded when it comes to editing, because there's certain clients that I've edited for. They're like, hey, we need this edited in Avid. We need this edited using Premiere or After Effects or Final Cut. And usually I try to kind of tend to go away from Final Cut, mainly because I'm on Windows. But I can still export my Premiere timelines as Final Cut timelines.
Very true. Yeah, absolutely, man. It's one of my goals I got to play with the 4K Blackmagic, and I was really impressed with it. You have to deck it out. I think the body is so cheap because you got to probably get a monitor with it. You got to get an easy rig, the SSDs. Shit adds up pretty fast.
It did. I mean, this 6K cost, like with the rig and all, I think it ended up being around $5,000.
What do you have, like a V? What do you call it, like a V battery?
Yeah, a V mount battery.
Yeah,
I have a 190 megawatt hour V mount battery, and
just one?
I have yet to charge it once. It really hasn't even gotten to 75% after a week of using it.
Wow.
So I think we're good.
Wow, that's a delight to hear. Do you remember the Ursa? What happened with that?
I love the Ursas. They just came out with a new Ursa 4.6K. It's like the Mark II of it.
Really?
Yeah, it looks good. It got rid of a lot of the problems that the original Blackmagic Ursa had, as well as the first iteration of the 4.6K.
Yeah.
Being like the low light issues and the grain tendencies of the 4.6K. But from what I've seen, it looks like a really good upgrade. But for $5,500. Man, you can get the 6K and a good rig, and it looks just the fucking same. It looks just the same, if not better. It's really just depends on what you want, and that also goes back to if you're a video guy, where's your video camera? And that's even like my thing with this 6K is like it's a beefy camera, but it still has the dimensions of a DSLR. Really, it's just a fat DSLR.
Is it heavy?
And the rig itself is heavy, like with everything on it, probably around like 15 pounds. But
is that a monitor I see on it?
Yeah, it's a Focus 5-inch monitor.
Oh, those are lovely.
Yeah, those things they're fun. Actually, I love it too because you can set up on the 6K to set up the monitor for the Focus to be a different display than what's being displayed on the camera monitor. So you can put false color on the Blackmagic one, and then it will just look like a regular monitor on the top. Yeah. So you can like really go into the fine detail of being able to color and white balance easier without having to switch between the different view modes of it.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're inspiring me. I just can't go down, me personally, like I can't go down it's a spiral for me if I start window shopping for stuff. It's like I don't need it. I don't need new stuff. I do not need new stuff, man. But it's so, especially for what I do, like I decided, at the last week of 2019 that I was going to invest more in podcasts just because of I'm able to get my messaging out there, and the return that I've been getting with especially going daily has been pretty good. And filmmaking, it's so hard to do it by yourself.
It's super
very hard. And then I'm like for lack of a better term, like this personality in front of the camera. So it's like, being able to do all this stuff, it becomes
you become a Renaissance man through it. It's interesting for sure.
Not by design. I didn't intend on being a Renaissance man by any means. And absolutely. I certainly wouldn't call myself that, but it's just you force yourself to learn all the trades.
That's right. And that's right. And I say this to every single one of my interns. The more you learn, the more you freaking earn. And the more valuable you become on set, really. That's even proven, like when I was working on Cherry, when they needed 10 people out the ass, the head of the art department came up to me and was like, you did more in an hour on your phone than I was able to do in the last month trying to hire people.
I'm going to write that
down. I'm like, cool. Let's keep doing it.
The more you learn, the more you earn. That's a bar.
Yep.
I love that.
That's a bar, dude.
That's a fucking bar. So 2020, dude, what's it look like for you? What are some metrics that you want to hit? What are like vanity metrics, numbers, earnings? Like, what do you want to do? How do you want to be fulfilled? When do you see yourself completing your heroin documentary? And what, the year just started, man, and you got a wedding on Saturday. Like, you're fucking German suplexing life. And I love it. So, I mean, what's it look like for you? What's the plan?
The plan for 2020 is to get onto the next big Hollywood set. They said they were going to call me back sometime in February for I think a Peter Jackson film that's being filmed in Cleveland.
Hell yeah.
So I'm going to be on that, like flies on shit for a little bit. And then, I mean, besides even that, I want to keep on doing those weddings. I have a lot of clients still booking. We have a lot of traveling to do. I just bought a plane ticket to Amsterdam because we're premiering something that we won in Cleveland, in Amsterdam, or in Rotterdam, I should say, at a film festival. Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
awesome.
It's a lot. It's great. And really, even besides that, going even more forward, trying to get the rest of the equipment situated, because going into 2020, and big reason why I'm like getting this thing. We also got ordered right now a Sony FS7 Mark II, which is a bigger Sony cinema camera, and it's Netflix grade. So now we can actually start creating things and optioning it off to producers at Netflix, especially since we're working in the actual industry around here. It just becomes more feasible every step of the way. It's just, you got to find those points to make it more feasible and just hitting it right on the head.
Fuck yeah,
and that's
dude.
what we do.
Man, that's no smoke. That's so inspiring to hear.
Good, man. I'm glad to hear that.
Fucking A, and I mean it. Geez, wasn't the Panasonic SL1 also Netflix grade?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yep. That's the
DSLR.
S1H. I love Panasonic. I love my GH4. I love my GH5. I think the S1H is perfect for what it is, and it really is about the same price as that fucking thing too. I just kind of want to, actually, it is full frame too, but I don't know. I just like Blackmagic just because it just has a better kind of color depth to it. Mm-hmm. I used the S1H once, and it's good for what it is. I'm just trying to steer a little bit clear of DSLR bodies, mm-hmm. and more go into the video body side, because as much as shitty as it is also like 10% about looks to clients too, which fucking sucks. But yeah, it's something to think about. And when people see you bring up a rig onto set, they're like, oh, this guy is a video guy, not mm-hmm. just another person with a GH5 trying to go out here and do things, which nothing bad towards any of that. That's how I fucking do everything, really. That's how I got all of the stuff that I do now, is through that GH4 and through that GH5 and through a Canon 60D, the trusty dusty Canon 60D.
Yeah.
And
trusty dusty. I want to do another podcast sometime in the future where I want to break down and really, I want to kind of, dude, you could teach me, like, quite frankly. Like, I think we can do like a little, maybe we'll make like an event out of it, like a film school. Like, I want to see you do a seminar.
That's
and I mean that because
I've done them before.
Well, there
I've
you go. I've
spoken at panels. I have interns that I teach at Kent State. I'm not averse to teaching, especially if it makes our industry grow like farther and better. Because that's my main goal for my Kent State interns, is to make sure that they're ready. They are ready. They're not just another person out of the gate who got a film degree and doesn't know what the fuck to do. Yeah. I make sure that they're all ready for the industry, that they have a good demo reel and they have a good fucking resume, and that when a hiring manager or a producer or director sees them, it's a no fucking brainer. And that's what I try to instill on just about everybody.
Wow, man. Well, shit. Hopefully with my work, I never know what state I'm going to be in every month. Hopefully when I'm in Ohio, I'm going to say what's up.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Come through, man.
Yeah, I'll pay you to watch you work. It's going to be good.
It's fine, man.
Jake, this was awesome, man. Thanks for taking time out of your evening. I know you're an hour ahead, and I want to be respectful of your time. So, man, fine, keep crushing it.
I appreciate it.
I love what you're doing. Thanks for reaching out to me. You've done so every year since I've been like this presence online, and you've just been really cool, and you continue to be cool, and keep doing what you're doing. You're inspiring us, man, and I cannot wait to be seeing it in a theater, watching a movie that you produced, direct, edit, that you shot.
Awesome,
it's going to happen. It might just happen. I might just be in my living room watching something on Netflix, but it's still going to happen, and I look forward to that, brother.
That's the plan, man.
Thank you so much for doing this.
I appreciate it.
We'll see you soon.
Absolutely, bud. Thank you.
Thank you.